Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, we're talking basketball, back channels, spring football, and recruiting. A high school, player. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing?
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for making us your first listen on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. With the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to see you once again, and we are wrapping up a week with some football thoughts to get to. We'll hear from offensive coordinator Zach Kittley coming up in just a moment. But first, wanted to wrap up the week by hitting the hoops radar. Some head coaching search thoughts, and we do actually have officially a new entry into the portal. So where do you want to start, Chris? You want to start with the guys in suits? Should we start with player movement as Elijah Fisher is in the transfer portal? Or all of the above, man? Take me anywhere you want to go.
Yeah, I think obviously, last night March Madness resumes and everybody kind of starts to focus on some of the games that were played last night. Kudos to Kansas State, by the way, for advancing. But yeah, we're still in the midst of kind of trying to figure out who the next coach is going to be. And I think that the second point you bring up is, as we wait, there's impatience from players out there on your team, elsewhere, or whatever. And so it's just that this is a tricky period of limbo here with no staff on hand in your facility. Your coaching search close to wrapped up, and yet you're not sure when closure is going to be here. Now let's connect some dots here, though, because I think people are smart enough to understand that North Texas has still got a game to play next Tuesday night. If they win, I think they play the following Thursday in Vegas. And so if you're of the belief, me being one of those, that he is the guy, you may not hear anything officially until, let's say, Wednesday morning or Friday morning officially. Yeah, I do think that if they've honed in on him, and I do think that is what has happened here, it doesn't mean he can't conduct business in the meantime. However, right, wrong, or indifferent, I think that Grant is about his team right now. And I think that is, the word, that's tricky, because there's a lot of guys out there that if they're in the middle of something, or if they agree to a deal, or they're going to move jobs, they're out. I mean, hey man, I got to go worry about the next thing, man. Forget. And I just don't, by all accounts, what he said to the media and everybody that's known him, he's just not. He's going to focus on North Texas and those kids until they have no more basketball games to play. Again, right, wrong, or indifferent. You can agree or disagree, but that's just who the guy is. And so I think, because look, Paul Mills is taking the Wichita State job. Rick Pitino is off the table. I hadn't heard anything lately about Andy Kennedy, James Borrego. That was a name. I think Randy Bennett is going to stay at St. Mary's. I think Chris Jans was out of Mississippi State, was a name, into the week, if you will. But I believe Grant McCaslin has emerged as the winner of this race. And now we just kind of wait to find out if we're right there, and to find out when that becomes official, meaning that's when business can start to be conducted officially. Yeah.
That's the word. Anybody noticing the key word here? Officially. I tried to kind of describe this yesterday, Chris, and maybe I did a poor job of it. But kind of talking about, hey, obviously there is an agreement before anybody publicly or officially is saying anything. People know we've got an agreement. They're interested. We're interested. We both said yes. And I think from a player perspective, because that's all I think we're really interested in. Sure, personally as fans, we want closure. We want a resolution. We want to move on to the next thing. But specifically, we are interested program-wise in keeping or getting players. One of the others. I said yesterday, a coach is great, but if you got nobody to coach, what's he going to do? Twiddle his thumbs. It ain't X's and O's. It's Jimmy's and Joe's and Marquise's, apparently. But I really feel like right now, if there was some in principle or behind closed doors agreement, that you would have probably some communication with those athletes, particularly the ones within your program, right? I don't know if it's Coach McCaslin himself, but Hokut, Womble, somebody, here's the coach, guys. This is it. This is what is going to happen. Whenever the time is right publicly, it'll happen publicly. But this is what's going to happen. I have to feel like those conversations can happen whenever that bridge has been crossed and you really know you've got something there. Am I wrong? Because I am trusting, I guess, in some sense, then like 20-year-olds to maybe keep a tight lip. But I have to feel like some of that has to be going on behind the scenes.
I think you answered your own question. Like at the very end.
Yeah.
There's just, again, depending on motivations here, and you're trying to do right by, whoever it is.
Sure.
I just think that you try to make that circle as small as you can. Hey, look, I've there are rumors out there about, I think a lot of it posted on Red Raider Sports about, have people been over at Friendship High School basically telling everybody that, hey, McCaslin's kids will be coming here, making them aware. Have there been rumors that Al Pinkins' kids have come home from school and be like, hey, they have a coach. My dad was offered a job to stay here. And he was, I think, recently photographed at a football practice in Ole Miss with Ole Miss gear on. So have I heard that there's North Texas, a staff member or two, like trying to get kids to come to Lubbock? Yeah, I've heard all that stuff. I've heard a variety of other things too.
What a world college sports gives us, right?
Yeah, but I think it would be tricky to tell your players. I think you could maybe give them a timetable, but you're asking a lot, and I do think that it is fair to say. Well, I'm trying to think of how the correct way to phrase this is. I think there's maybe some players that the folks involved with the basketball situation may be wanting to stay in contact with, and there's others they really are indifferent about. You feel me there? Do you understand?
Yeah,
what I'm
like that latter group calls, hey, have y'all heard anything? Nah, man, what's up? Nah, I ain't heard nothing. Nothing going on over here, man. Nah, I got a phone call. What? I'll see you later. Yeah, I think there's two camps there. I think most of us understand that part.
Yes. So, and I will say this, so I'm clear. Elijah Fisher is in the camp. I think that you would want to kind of keep him in the loop. I mean, he's got an NIL deal. I think he's, there's different things going with him. I think he showed some serious upside. I mean, if you'd asked me this question and you knew where I was at on it, in mid to late January, I would have said he's in over his head. This isn't really fair to him to put him, in these spots. He's supposed to be a senior in high school. Right. But over that last, month to 6 weeks, when he got more playing time, I thought he made winning plays. He kind of flourished in limited minutes. It was very
both ends of the floor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I agree. And I think, Chris, before we move on away from hoops, the Fisher thing on the heels of what was one of the greatest basketball games I've ever seen last night, and certainly individual performances with Kansas State and Marquise Noel. I'm sitting there watching that, and I don't know if you saw this, and I haven't fact-checked this myself, but I swear I saw someone say that nobody that played for K-State last night started their basketball career with K-State on the college level. Is that accurate?
Yes.
That is wild to consider. Now, that may be an extreme case, but not as extreme as it once was. But I'm sitting here thinking, Chris, and we've got Elijah Fisher in the transfer portal. Boom, another 5-star gone. not all 5 stars are created equally, clearly, as far as being instant impact guys. And when I'm watching K-State do their thug dizzle, and I'm thinking, man, we got a 5-star, another 5-star hitting the portal. Why would you ever recruit a high school kid again? I don't even know how good they would have to be for me to want to invest resources, time, and energy into a high school. I mean, was it like top 20 players? I don't know who can make an immediate impact among those types of guys, particularly in the Big 12 Conference. And I like the long-term trajectory of Elijah Fisher, sure. But big picture, this is another 5-star prep level prospect that may not work out for you. I don't know where he's going to wind up, but I'm having flashbacks into Mari Burnett, of course, when you kind of dipped into that pond, McDonald's All-American, all this stuff. And Fisher is a year advanced as far as his timeline being a senior. You guys all know of that, I'm sure. But that K-State reality hit me in a way maybe I didn't expect to be hit, Chris. And I'm just thinking about the future of recruitment. You and I have talked about it several times before on this show, man. It is changing before our eyes as to who you invest your time in when it comes to trying to get guys to join your program.
There's a happy medium, I think, there at some level. And I think they maybe slanted a bit too much in roster building last year. Well, no, they just did. They slanted way too much toward youth. But if you think about last year's team, if Kerwin Walton and DeMarion Williams were better and you hit on those two guys, it would have changed the dynamic of your team. And it also would have allowed for the Fishers, the Lamar Washingtons, even Pop Isaacs and Robert Jennings, I mean, just to ease into this deal. You know, if Fardaws was healthy the whole time, you know, then obviously Jennings is allowed to ease into this deal. The tricky thing is, are they comfortable easing into this deal? Do they want immediate, payoff and all those things? But because I mean, I go to last year's team, which was wildly successful, and we all focus on Bryson, Adonis Arms, Davion Warren, all those kinds of guys. But remember, there's a lot of holdover and program type guys like McCullough and Shannon that grew up and were here for the long haul. I think the key is you mesh it together. Because Marquise Noel for Kansas State, that's a Bruce Weber guy. He's been there for a period of time. Came from one of the Arkansas schools, I believe. But I think to your point, this is the way it goes, and that's why culture, energy, those kinds of things, which is Jerome Tang has given that program, means so much because you take a group, mesh it together, get them feeling good, and you need some pieces. Hey, Desi Sills, he fouled out in that game, and I thought it hurt them at the tail end. But Desi Sills is a guy that played for Corey Williams and Eric Musselman at Arkansas. He wanted to come here. Texas Tech didn't think he was good enough to come here. Now he's in the Elite Eight, and I think doing pretty well. So,
yeah, and Musselman, that's what you get blasting those nips in front of kids, man. What are you doing? Put your shirt on.
Hey,
don't get by 20 next time. Yeah,
karma is undefeated.
We'll see what the future holds for Elijah Fisher. I'd certainly love to have him back in the mix, but yeah, there's like some phase of the highly decorated prep level prospect or some layer where there's the reality. Can they actually contribute? Yes or no? And then there's the second thing, which is their reality. Well, should I have been able to contribute? And if I think so, but I didn't get the opportunity, boom, paya, I'm out of here. It's a wild, wild thing to observe. And you think about all the money, time, and energy that comes with attracting an athlete, and whether or not it's going to be a 17, 18-year-old guy that you're putting that into, or maybe a 21-year-old guy who's already got a couple of seasons of college basketball on his resume that you're putting it into. Those are very, very difficult decisions to make. But we'll see how it works out for those who are set to make them. You know, a head coach, assuming you will have one at some point in the future. We gave you that Locked On Texas Tech guarantee earlier in the week. We do believe, we're reporting at this time, you will hire another head men's basketball coach. We feel good about that still at this hour. All right, we're leaving hoops there by the side of the road, moving onward as we're turning to offensive coordinator Zach Kittley. You'll hear from him coming up next, talking Texas Tech spring football, O-line, and speed. Those sound like good things to have at your disposal, right? Well, maybe you do in 2023. We'll get to Coach Kittley coming up next on Locked On Texas Tech. But first, today's episode brought to you by America's #1 sports book, FanDuel. And now is the perfect time to download the FanDuel app. Become a new customer because new customers get that no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't hit. So just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today. Safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line, point scores, 3 points drained if basketball is your thing, or all points in between. Underwater basket weaving, anyone. FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with that same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Glad to have you along for the ride on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network with Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan coming to you from west of the 100th Meridian, where it's really going down. Chris, great to be back with you and great to be talking football again as Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders in the midst of spring camp. We talked a little bit already this week about some things we heard from Coach McGuire, but we also had a chance now to hear from Texas Tech offensive coordinator Zach Kittley. Now, you and I have mentioned already this week a couple of the guys at Coach Kittley's disposal that were not there a season ago. And thankfully, if you're a Texas Tech football fan, some of that is going to be within the offensive line, whether by injury or by incoming transfer. You've got some new things to consider, and those we believe are going to add up to potentially some big steps in the right direction for Coach Hamby and his group up front. Want to get to a couple of guys in particular, that being Rusty Staats and that being Cole Spencer, and thoughts from their offensive coordinator, Zach Kittley. Here's Coach Kittley first, Chris, on Rusty Staats.
He's just an awesome human being, first and foremost. He brings a different energy to your offensive line. And everything that he does is a million miles an hour, which we love. Clearly we like to play a tempo here. So just him being able to get to that line of scrimmage faster and get everybody else lined up with him. When you watch him on tape line up, it's going to make the guys around him say, hey, if the 300-pounders line up that fast, we need to line up that way too. So, again, I don't know exactly, 29 starts maybe at center for him. So he just brings a lot of experience. Clearly been in this system. This will be year 3 for him in this system. So, again, just a lot of continuity in what we're trying to do for him.
You know, we've spent a lot of time on Rusty and Cole Spencer, the Western Kentucky guys, and talking a lot about Dennis Wilburn going to get to move to right guard now. And I just don't think people really grasp how much of a difference this is going to make, having quality there that is really, really good. And I think that I remember Zach saying something about when they were getting Staats about how you think we go fast now. Wait till you see this kid, because people think that it's the coach and his ability to call the play, or it's all 11 guys and ability to get down the field and hurry up and get on the ball. It's really all on one guy, and it's the center.
Yeah, how about the guy that has to actually snap the ball? Don't think about that.
Yeah, it's the center. And I think he just has one speed, and I think that's just the way he's operated. And he was with Kittley 2 years ago, and obviously without him last year, but it's the same system they ran. And I think so he knows everything that he's supposed to do, and almost can kind of be an example and set the standard here, because I think that's why Dennis Wilburn deserved a ton of credit last year, because whenever they did get into tempo scenarios, I mean, Dennis was really good at it too. So I think, but Rusty's even better at that aspect of it. So it just, football is a trenches game, and we talk a lot about quarterback and skill and playmaking and all that stuff. I mean, I just think that they're so much better up front, and they're telling you this. I mean, I think they were telling you a year ago, yeah, we had to go get Cade Briggs and Michael Shanahan and, all the Cole Spencer and all these people, it's a problem or a position that we're kind of worried about, a potential problem. And they were telling you very transparent, like, it needs help. We needed to go get Monroe Mills from Oklahoma State, and on it goes. Ty Buchanan from USC. So, and now they're telling you, we like what we've got. We really have some quality pieces up front, and I think Staats is certainly the head of the snake there.
I think it's also a good reminder that every minute that you are on film is telling a scout or a coach something. Yeah. And so breaking the huddle and the way that you're getting to the line of scrimmage, I mean, every minute that you're on film is going to betray something about you as a football player. So good on Staats for coming through on film in that way. Before we move away from the offensive line, let's get back to the guy that was, already here a season ago, and one that we mentioned so often only because we wished he would have been on the field, had heard about what he could have done for Texas Tech. Unfortunately, didn't have the best of luck from an injury standpoint. We didn't get to see that rocket get off of the ground, but hoping to see it this year. That is the aforementioned Cole Spencer. And here is once again offensive coordinator Zach Kittley.
I mean, he's ramped up. He looks great right now. It was really, really fun for me because, clearly I'm close with him. And we're out here and we're going through our walkthrough, and him and I were having a conversation, and I felt like him and I almost both came to tears how excited he was to say he's back on the football field. Just what that means to him, because it's been a long time since he's been out here. So he looks really, really good, really taking care of his body. Has gotten every rep so far with no setback, so I think we're going to continue that as we go.
The first thing I want to say is I don't know who's got the Casio watch that I heard the beeping in the background.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, come on, it's time to update. Time to update.
We are talking about print guys mostly standing around there. They know what a podcast is.
Yeah. Kidding. Yes.
I thought the same thing. No, I was like, wait, who's got the antique?
Weird. Yeah, just threw me off. Is Casio? Is that still a brand?
I think you nailed it. I think that's the best. I don't know if it still is, but that's exactly the brand that would make that sound.
Yeah, that's right. The black rubber band deal. You get them right at the front of Walmart. They have them in a glass case like they were special, and they would just write like G-Shock on it to make you think, oh man, we could charge you $50 more for this one as opposed to the other. Anyway,
I'm more of a Shock G guy. The one who put the satin on you. Okay, that's another
digital Underground. I like it. I like what you're doing. Yes, that's right. RIP too, I think, by the way.
That's right.
Yes. So I think with Cole Spencer, I think that everybody felt like when he got here a year ago, they weren't, and he didn't go through spring, but I think that everybody had said Hamby and Kittley and best offensive lineman. That's him. That is the best one we've got. We know what we've got there. And then as we got, I remember saying something to you, and I can't remember if it was early August or as we got into August a bit. And I said something like, man, Cole Spencer may not play. And you're like, what did you repeat that?
Yeah.
And you kind of, and maybe, we didn't start this thing until late August. So maybe this was even actually into September. And we were just kind of wondering if this would be, he would just be out for a week or two. But no, it was a scenario to where I think it was really hard for everybody involved, not just Cole, but I think Stephen Hamby, Zach Kittley, that entire group, because I think he's the epitome of consistency, and he's kind of a quieter guy. He's not wild and crazy, but I think very mature. I think he looks the part. I think that again, it's going to make Monroe Mills at tackle that much better because he's got Cole Spencer next to him. So again, I just don't want to overstate how big these two Western Kentucky kids are. But I think Stephen Hamby and Zach Kittley are certainly sleeping better at night knowing they're both in Red Raider uniforms now.
Well, you got the bonus layer that I really kind of forget here or there with Staats and being a newcomer right now and his previous familiarity with Zach Kittley and what he likes to do. Obviously, that was Spencer as well. So I think there's maybe a little boost there that you wouldn't have otherwise as far as familiarity goes. And I was just thinking, it wasn't only hard on Zach Kittley or Stephen Hamby. How about Tyler Shuck, Donovan Smith, and Baron Morton? Was pretty hard on those guys as well to have to kind of put it together there with smoke and mirrors at some different points in 2022. But, man, hopefully some of those dues paying off with mucho fruit in 2023. Let's stick with football, but get to something that I'm really excited to hear them discussing already. You and I have touched on it many times on this show before this guy decided to become a Red Raider. And now that some of the coaches are seeing him in person, apparently living up to the reputation of speed. But first, today's episode brought to you by Built Bar. The Built March Madness bracket has arrived. I know you got your favorite bar or puff, and now's your time to make it count. Go to builtmarchmadness.com to vote for your favorite and maybe be a winner in the process. You know, I'm voting for that churro, baby. Team Churro 2023. Let me know where you're at builtmarchmadness.com. When you vote for your favorite bar or puff, you're going to be entered into a drawing where 50 lucky Locked On listeners will get a free box of Built. And not only that, but one Locked On fan is going to get a 12-month subscription to Built to have Built's best bars or puffs delivered monthly straight to your doorstep. You can't beat that. You got to try Built right now. If you haven't before, Built is the best protein bar ever. For real. So amazing. You're not even going to think they're good for you. What makes Built bars and puffs so good? For starters, all high in protein, low in sugar, covered in 100% real chocolate. That's right. Real chocolate. So run to builtmarchmadness.com right now to vote for your favorite bar or puff, churro like me, or go your own way and pick up a box while you're there. You can vote every day in March. So hop in and support your pick at builtmarchmadness.com. Let's stick with football, but get to something that I'm really excited to hear them discussing already. You and I have touched on it many times on this show before this guy decided to become a Red Raider. And now that some of the coaches are seeing him in person, apparently living up to the reputation of speed. Talking about Drae McCray. This is offensive coordinator Zach Kittley on the guy that has some saying to me, Chris, visions of Jakeem Grant dancing in the coaches' heads. And that's always a great thing if you're going to mention a guy like that. There have been some great ones who are diminutive in stature, but not in impact. Thurman, Grant, and some others I'm going to miss here or there, obviously, in the history of Texas Tech football. And maybe this cat is going to be the next one to join that category. Drae McCray, the new addition from Austin Peay. Is that right?
Yes.
Austin Peay. And here's his offensive coordinator, Zach Kittley, talking speed.
Kind of funny today. We probably got sacked in a team period, but we ended up launching a deep post probably 60, 70 yards downfield and detracked it down. And we just haven't seen anything like that probably around here. Just true speed like that probably since a Jakeem Grant type guy. I know I was not here for a few years, but he can really, really take the top off. Another guy that loves football, student of the game. We're going to try to use him in multiple facets too, slot, outside, try to give him some speed toss, maybe put him in the backfield a little bit. So, he's different, trying to learn a little bit as we go because he's got a lot on his plate, just a newer guy. But, man, he's got a different gear that we haven't seen around here in a long time, and that's been awesome to have around.
My favorite part of this media setting was it's actually Tim DeRuyter, the defensive coordinator, has asked something along the lines of, hey, is there any of the offensive guys that are kind of sticking out to you or whatever? And he kind of, the first thing, he smiles and he goes, yeah, number 10. He goes, I don't know his name even, but he can really run. Like he kind of, his eyes lit up and he kind of, he stated, I think he's talking about the one play that Zach was talking about right there. Yeah. So I think Jakeem Grant was a quickness video game gadget kind of guy. Like, stop, start. I mean, just kind of had some Barry Sanders, had a little
Dante Hall.
Yeah, exactly.
Human
just
joystick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I don't know if that's necessarily Drae McCray per se, like that part. But I think the top end speed is much faster than Jakeem was. Jakeem was fast. He was football fast. I don't think he was like, running away from people or getting behind the defense. I just think his quickness allowed him and angles and all that. So it's
once he had that step on you, it's not like you were going to catch him. But I get what
Correct.
You're saying. Straight line. Yeah.
Yes. So, but I think Drae is a guy like Jakeem too, and I think that's where the comparison starts. Is that let's let him major in everything. Let's don't, make him just only this. I mean, inside, outside, handing it to him, tossing it to him, throwing it to him. Having
him
those
squat
different
in the center and just run around the end when nobody's there.
That's right. That's right. Running the flex bone. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I think it's a new toy, and I think that this is the kind of kid though that allows Miles Price to also do that Jakeem Grant type stuff too, because everybody will tell you over there that Miles is really taken a step forward from a maturity standpoint. Like, not that he wasn't before, but I think he also is. Look, at some point, all athletes, well, I say all, a lot of athletes get it, and it just kind of clicks. I don't have a lot of time left. I've got to take this seriously. This isn't necessarily just about fun anymore. Yeah. This is about winning. This is about doing the extra things. Do I want to keep doing this after college? And I think Miles is kind of entering into that territory. He's been here for a few years, kind of was the young guy, kind of been dinged up a bit. Well, now he's got a guy like Drae McCray. He's getting a bit older. And so now I think he's starting to mature overnight. And I think he's starting to grasp the magnitude of, I don't have a lot of eligibility and time left here. And my team needs me and all those things. And he's a great kid. So I think that Drae McCray, if anything, he will help Miles Price take some pressure off, maybe push him, all the above. But I think, and that's the fun part. That's when you bring a kid, a player in, and it, the rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing. So yeah, I'm excited to see Drae McCray for sure. Number 10, as Tim DeRuyter called it.
Look, it widens the margin for error for everybody offensively. The quarterback, the O-line, the offensive coordinator. When you got a guy who can sometimes take chicken spit and turn it into chicken soup. And yes. Grant could certainly do that. And we'll see on McCray. I couldn't pick the guy out of the lineup. So what can I tell you right now about him? Well, nothing other than we're hearing really great things about the lightning-esque nature of what he brings to the football field. All right, good stuff there, Chris. Appreciate the insights. And, man, before we are out of here, throw two more, right? Because Tim Tadlock and the Red Raiders are headed to Austin, Texas this weekend. And if you think that it was like a football variety or a combination of Chris Beard and Mark Adams basketball variety that caused the Longhorns to tuck tail and run off to the SEC, you were wrong. It was actually Tim Tadlock that run this entire thing for Texas, Chris, because as the Red Raiders and Longhorns set to square off in a Big 12 three-game series in Austin this weekend, you'll be coming into it with Texas Tech winning 4 of the last 6 against Texas, looking for their 3rd straight series win in Austin. Has been a series mostly in recent years that's been taken by the road team, aside from a team at home that has Kurt Wilson, flashback. He's not there anymore, thankfully, for the University of Texas, unfortunately for us. But Tim Tadlock, once upon a time when the Longhorns said, hey, coach, got plenty of greenbacks over here for you. Want to come to Austin? He said, I'm staying in West Texas. And then commenced to smack them around. Tim Tadlock is truly the reason why Texas is taking their ball and going to another blacktop. Chris, I just wanted to make sure we made note of that. It's totally Coach Tadlock's fault, I believe.
Yeah, and you're playing this series without one of your key relievers, or maybe your key reliever, because of some nasty language. So that, yeah, I know that's.
What, did he use the wrong pronoun?
That's a bit frustrating. No, I think he told somebody to go sit the bleep down after he struck him out.
He was trying to show a lost fan to their seat. The ushers were falling down on the job.
Don't wander around. The dugout is that way. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Ridiculous and so soft from the conference. Yeah. But, this is it. I'm wondering if maybe with your mark in charge, from New York, and these guys, I don't know if you've ever heard the New York or Boston alphabet, but it's like can A, can B, can C, can D, can E, can F. And I actually was taught that by a quote unquote professor at Texas Tech University, an Institute of Higher Learning, if you can believe it. But I'm wondering with your mark maybe in the mix that we'll loosen it up a little bit on the language across the conference. Your mark won't even bat an eye at something like that in the future.
We're about to start playing games at Rucker Park in downtown NYC, right near Brooklyn. And I guarantee you that language that stated on those courts, not exactly PG. I mean, come on, man. I just don't want any more public reprimands anymore. Like, you know what?
No more.
Yeah, I don't want any like Shane. You got some explaining to do.
Wear the scarlet letter.
Yes, I don't want any of the reprimand anymore. And I'm okay with some colorful language at times. I need to be careful about that on occasion. But yeah, if we're Rucker Parkering this thing up, man. You know, if you strike somebody out and you've been getting talked to or whatever, you can show them to their seat and tell them where to go sit and maybe add some spice to it, some mustard, whatever.
And just think at the conclusion of this weekend, which, by the way, I believe is broadcast entirely on that turd of a network, the Longhorn Network. If you got it via subscription, I'd say find a way to illegally stream it just for fun. Don't even worry about it. If you got it, turn that channel off. Go find another way to steal it from them. But you've got a chance here, Chris, to remember upon the conclusion of this series, there have been roughly $130 to $140 million that have separated the resource and monetary investment between these two athletics departments when you try to take it from them all over again. Looking forward to that this weekend and plenty more hoops, obviously, on tap. We're back on the other side on Monday to digest all of the above and maybe a few things in between with your head coaching search, which rolls on, sort of. Chris, thanks for the time all week, man. Enjoyed it. The insights, perspectives, appreciated as always.
Yes, sir. We'll talk to you next week. Thanks, Calvin. Have a good weekend.
Got it.
Keep hope alive.
Indeed. And thanks for making us your first listen on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. Make Locked On College Basketball your second listen right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your one-stop college hoops shop on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. That's Locked On College Basketball for your second listen. For Chris, I'm Casey. Have a great one. We'll see you for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.